Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 1384 for the 8th of December for the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine. In yesterday's SITREP, I have introduced a new way of looking at the front line. What does a capture mean? And where and why things is so weird when we look at the reportings. So you should watch the previous SITREP. Anyway, I'm not going to explain again, so you should watch it. If not, then you try to catch it when I'm reporting. Maybe you can catch something along it. So we go to the Kherson front. At the Kherson front, there is no reports of the fighting over in Dachi. Shelling is over in Mikhailsk, but that's about it at the Kherson front. Over in the Zaporizhia front at the Kharkiv and Kupyansk sector, near Zaporizhia, there's this city or smaller town called Myrnohrad was mentioned by the Russian Defense Ministry's report. Yeah, so that's all. Not important. There's some shelling over there. Over in the Kharkiv sector, there is some interesting development. Russian Defense Ministry has announced the capture of Novodanylivka. Shelling or fighting is reported at Kharkiv. Not sure how does it work. Where does it come from? We're not sure. Fighting is reported at Lukyanivsk, or shelling, or it can be noted as shelling, and fighting is reported as Dnipro. So the capture for Novodanylivka is definitely very interesting. This announced by the Russian Defense Ministry. So far, I haven't seen any evidence or geolocation or flag raising footages of it yet. So let's wait for more information. If this is correct, then an attack on Kharkiv may be coming soon. But I would imagine that the Russians will need to secure Myrnohrad, even though they did announce that they have captured it, and also from Novodanylivka direction, to do basically a war around it. If not, then yeah, it's probably not so simple to capture Kharkiv. The main push in the direction of Primorsk seemingly have taken a pause for now. So maybe the Russians have not made any progress. That's why things have slowed down for now. So that's all from the Kharkiv and the Kupyansk sector of the Zaporizhia front. By the way, this is a static line. Moving into the Huliaipole sector. In the Huliaipole sector, this is Huliaipole or Huliaipole. Anyway, fighting is reported at Huliaipole. The battle of Huliaipole is ongoing. Fighting at Priloki, Dnipro, Ternopil probably is shelling over here, and over in Rizdianka. This is also the first time we have seen this place mentioned. Shellings over there. Fighting is reported at Krasnohorsk, Privyone, Ribne, as well as Lodke. So the Ukrainian forces probably still have some positions around here. They probably continuing to send people there, and that just attract Russian attention to shell or attack these defenders. The Russians are still attacking Ukrainian forces, probably over in the Dnipro and Priloki. The Russians forward operating base most likely is over in Rivnopilia, and Yablokove. This is where they launched an attack from. The Ukrainian forward position is over in Rizdianka, Ternopil, Dnipro. This is why these places are all getting shelled. And this is how the Ukrainians are sending forces in, and through the longer way. This is a bit far, so this position here is going to be very hard to hold. So Russian forces attack on Huliaipole. Ukrainians, of course, Huliaipole is a strong position, it's a stronghold. Russian probably attacking from Zaporizhia around here. This is probably where the forward operating position is. There's probably defensive position over at Myrnohrad, but I think this is tentatively a static line. The main attack is coming from Zaporizhia, and from Rivnopilia, they're attacking towards Dnipro and Priloki. The main aim is to capture these two places and push the Ukrainians out from this sector here. So I wonder if I noticed there is something different, right, from the previous SITREP. If you didn't watch the last one, because of the new way of thinking about how captures and how the front line actually means in modern warfare in the Ukraine war. So now it's more important to have a mental guess So this analysis, of course, is not reality. This is just my gut feeling of where the forward operating bases are. The operating bases, these HQs, these headquarters, are key to the ability to challenge for grounds. If any of these HQ got pushed out, got destroyed, or the faction don't dare to send any more people into that HQ or operating base, then they will lose contact with the front line or the contact line, and then that means that the contact line villages is going to get captured. That simply means that's simply it, which is also why we see the exchanges of hands. That also explains why Deep State UA have very weird mapping compared to Russian mapping, because they refuse to map in any places that is not really actually fully captured by the Russian forces. They do not view gray zones, those places where the Russians do not have anyone sitting over there as captured grounds. So this is important to note. So this is a totally new way of looking at things. So get used to it, because this is probably how we're going to continue to do this situation report and understanding of the battles ahead. Moving into the Dnipro front. At the Dnipro front, we have fighting reported at Andreyevka, Shifneve, Verbove, and Shifneve, another Shifneve. This is Vishneve, this is Shishneve. Oh my god. And Zelene High. So all these positions, I believe Andreyevka is more like a shelling than anything. This is probably where the Ukrainians have their forward operating positions, attacking into these areas. And they probably have inserted themselves into Verbove and Vishneve in this sector here, which is why we are seeing some battles around here. This is probably what it is. Ukrainians probably also have position or attack into Shifneve and over in the Zelene High region, which is why the fighting is being reported over there. Tentatively, this is where the Russians are trying to to basically stop the Ukrainians from coming in, but tentatively I think the Ukrainians still have very strong positions. The forward operating base is probably over at Velika Myrnohrad. The other one is over at Pokrovsk and Alexandrivka. All these are very strong positions, which allows them to continue to do incursions. Of course, the forest cannot be underestimated. The forest is the one that is causing all these tentacles going into these deep places, which is why the Ukrainian zone of control, or at least their imagination of where the front line is pretty far away, because of this very strong positions in the rear that is supporting the front line. So Russians tentatively haven't have a good solution to this yet. So the only way to push forward is to take out the entire four operating bases, which is very difficult. So tentatively, that's the situation here. And for those that ask why they don't just charge, because you will just instant die from FPV drone strikes all the way there. So from the moment you start moving, you'll be attacked by FPV drone all the way until you reach your destination, and then you haven't even started fighting yet. So that is the main reason. So it is a standoff war. Generally speaking, most infantries don't see an enemy probably in their whole life, even when they die. Like most soldiers don't even ever see the enemy at all. All they saw is drones attacking them. And then by the time you are given the orders to overrun the position, you run in and realize there's nobody there, just dead bodies everywhere. That is probably what is going to be happening. Infantry battles are going to be rare. So this is what it is. Over in the eastern flank of the Pokrovsk front and the northern flank of the Dnipro front, Zeleny I already mentioned. Novodanylivka is still mentioned, also as Dashny. Fighting is reported at Molodetske, Udashny, and Kotline. Generally, this is a static line. I don't think there's any push over there. The Russians have these positions pretty well, and the Ukrainians are probably counterattacking, which is why there's constantly fighting in the sector here. The Russians still is fighting the battle for Novodanylivka. Tentatively, the Russians should have more or less or most of the control of Novopalivka. But this is a salient on its own, which is why it probably is a little bit difficult as the Ukrainians are putting pressure all over. Ukrainian forward operating base is probably over at Mazova. This is where they launched the attack towards Novopalivka. From Novopalivka, the Russian bases is pretty far away. Probably this cluster, and this cluster is a little bit far. Like for the Ukrainians, there's a highway all the way down, but the Russians is just farmlands. So it's a bit more difficult for the Russians to go to Novopalivka. So unless they have a strong foothold inside, have built their bases inside of Novopalivka, if not, then it's going to be a bit troublesome, for the Russians tentatively. So that's the situation over in the Dnipro front. Over in the Pokrovsk front. So let me see. So we zoom in first. So we have major news. If you have watched the Frontline Changes report, the Ukrainian mapping finally has considered the entire southern part of the Myrnohrad salient. So in the process, the Ukrainian mapping or the Ukrainian side have considered that they have lost Sukiya and Lysivka, with the Russian forces taking all of the southern positions south of Myrnohrad. So this is a very, very, very significant frontline change. By all measures, it changes everything. Russian forces raised the flag at Rivne, and fighting is reported at Ray because of the slight frontline change there. Fighting is still reported in Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad, with the Russians attacking from two different directions, the east and the west. There's a geolocation of a Russian airstrike in Myrnohrad. So clearly showing that the Ukrainians still have a main stronghold in the center of Myrnohrad that is holding back everything. There's fighting reported at Kherson as well. So the Russians that are definitely making this push up north. They're putting pressure from all directions, and I think the Rivne is probably taken by the Russians already. But then the main push is currently putting pressure on Myrnohrad. So there is no rescue of Myrnohrad. Myrnohrad is too far away from the next Ukrainian base. The Ukrainians are probably in at most the northern part of Kherson, and even that they're just getting attacked by the Russian forces rather than they are launching any counterattacks because it's not reported at all by the Russian Defense Ministry. So there is probably some remnants of Ukrainian forces in Pokrovsk. There's a possibility, and the Russians already probably encircled them. So yeah, that is the current situation. The Pokrovsk has not entirely confirmed to be taken yet, despite the Russian Defense Ministry's announcement. We do not have the geolocation or evidence for that being the case. But anyway, according to the Russian perspective, this is an encirclement. According to the Ukrainian perspective, this is just a salient. So we're going to just continue to wait for more information and see how this continue to develop and play out in the next few days. Moving further up north to the northern flank of the Pokrovsk front, we have fighting reported at Severny Liman, Rudinsky, Bilitsky, Nikanorivka, Fedorivka, Shakove, Sofievka, Toretsk, Vilny, Rusinya. So the Rusinya is already more towards the Konstantinivka front side. So in this sector here, Russian forces let's look at where the Ukrainian positions might be. So definitely the Dnipro cannot be, this is the main one, the main big base. The Ukrainians probably have positioned at Toretsk and Sofievka, which is probably why they're getting shot or attacked constantly around this sector here. The Russians probably have the position over in Potovka and Popivia. This is one position. Fedorivka is probably maybe another one, maybe not so. Let me think. Maybe Novoekonomishny, maybe at Novotoretsk, and this is where the attacks are being launched from. The fighting is currently in this sector here. From Bilitsky, Vibrivene, generally the direction is to move towards Dnipro as usual. Rodinsky, Severny Liman is actually doing a flanking operation towards Kherson. And then of course the operations here is to take out the whole chain of settlements here. So strategically, nothing has exactly changed for now. Rusinia, this is a static line. I don't think the Russians are pushing out. I think they are defending here. Is the Ukrainians that is actually incurring in and are trying to take a position in. But tentatively, I think that is the current posture. Ukrainians definitely are doing counterattacks in this sector, but maybe from Belitske, they are pushing it towards Fedorivka. There's a possibility. And also from to Nikandorivka. So let's continue to wait to see any more developments. It's still pretty contested, the front line here. So that is why things are not moving much. So we go on to the Konstantinivka front. Over the Konstantinivka front, there is fighting, just mentioned just now, Rusinia, Stepanivka, Diablonivka, Berestov, Prishevka, Shebenivka, Oleksandrov-Shutiny, Konstantinivka, and the Russians announced the capture of Shovone. This is very interesting because if this is true, then we are talking about a totally changed front line. The front line may look like maybe here. So this incursion would be interesting. We shall see how that goes. There's still Russian positions in the south of Konstantinivka, but the Ukrainians using Konstantinivka as their operating base are putting a lot of pressure on this Prishevka direction, where the Russians are trying to push out and create a southern wall, but it's not working out so far. The Ukrainians are putting out a good fight in this sector here, most likely. The Russians potentially are pushing towards Berestov as well. But Rusinia is probably a static line. A push towards Stepanivka does make sense. There is geolocation of an armored vehicle that was destroyed in the southwest of Konstantinivka. Ukrainians continue to mention Shebenivka. How they actually reinforce this place, I have no freaking idea. I don't think this is a legitimate place unless they have left troops behind there and never rescued them and they got stuck. That is also very possible. So that's the current situation here. Russian probably have a forward operating position at Oleksandrov-Shutiny, and of course they have Bakhmut, and now they have Chasiv. So the Russians have a very strong flank over on the eastern part of Konstantinivka, but pushing out is difficult because Ukrainians Konstantinivka is just as strong. So we shall wait for confirmation of the capture of Shovone. Tentatively, we can't confirm this information. But just to note is that if we put this into consideration, the Russians have already announced the capture of Shovone, Makove, Maiske, Klinove, Bezinyani. And you can see this is very bizarre. We are missing Varolubivka, we are missing Mykolaievka. So, and of course, the Russians also announced the capture of Stopochki as well. So, where the front line is right now, I can't tell. I have no idea. It probably looks like this. Maybe. So, we shall wait and see. Then definitely very stinky. So, no, if you don't know what you mean by stinky, there's a place called Stinky around here. Yeah, stinky. So, anyway, stinky. Okay, anyway, that's all for the Konstantinivka front. Over in the Bakhmut front, there is nothing else. In fact, I can't even call this Bakhmut front anymore. I think we can almost start to call this the Kramatorsk front soon. And if the Siversk falls, then this is going to be the Sloviansk front. So anyway, let's see. So now we're at Siversk, and as I said, Siversk fall because the Russian forces have been geolocated right at the river bank, the river bridge between the two sides of Siversk. And the eastern part of Siversk is almost entirely fully captured by the Russian forces, if not already fully captured by the Russian forces. Findings reported Terebryanka, Platonivka, Dronivka, Yampil. Drusivka is mentioned, probably shelling. Findings reported Fedorivka and Zvanivka. So Russian forces attacking Siversk. I think this is a foregone conclusion. Not just the Russians probably have a strong position in Vokmokanyamsky to support the attack. They probably have a very strong position inside of Siversk, and I think they will continue to finish the battle at Siversk. I think Siversk is hopeless. Where is the Ukrainian forward operating base here? I don't even know where it is. Kraveluka, maybe Kalanki, and right Oleksandrivka. Definitely right Oleksandrivka is one of the main ones. but this is super far away to do support operations. Like it's just too far away. The Russians are putting a lot of pressure here. And the Russians, I don't think they have much positions around here. It's probably Perezne and further south. And yeah, so the Russians are trying to push out from this sector here. And they are also doing this flanking operation towards Zakine and towards Kreveluka. And from Yampil, they're going towards Dnipro. Ukrainians have Liman. And this Liman is problematic as the Ukrainians can support and defend Dnipro from Liman pretty effectively, which is probably why the front line has pretty much went static around at Yampil. It's not moving much because it's a bit too close to the sun. So, all the wax melt on the wing and then all fly and drop down. But if you do not know that Greek tale, is perfectly fine because I'm also not Greek. So anyway, so that is the current situation in the Siversk front. So we move on further to the Oskil front. And let me know in the comments, do you feel better? Like, do you feel like it's more informative because of this new way to look at the front lines, the situation? Because putting in the concept of where the bases are is very important. In fact, when I chit-chat with my source who is fighting in the Ukraine war right now, the basically it's really that you have a base where you start from, and you have to travel quite a bit of distance, quite a number of hours before you reach to reach your AO, your area of operations, to reach where the front line probably is, to get struck by FPV drones. Most people don't stay at the front. Only cannon foders, those set folks that got pushed and told to sit in the trenches to wait for drones to kill them. Those are the rare ones. Say rare, also not that rare. A lot of people just die like this. But otherwise, it's really fighting from the rear. It's really maneuver warfare. This modern warfare, the theories is actually accurate. It's just that we can't see it very clearly, from a far away point of view. So over at the Oskil front, so just to note, the Liman is under attack as well. This cannot be ignored. Over in the Oskil front, fighting the Russian forces has been geolocated at Novodanylivka. They have straightened the front line here, and the fighting is being mentioned by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry about the fighting there. Fighting is also reported at Konstantynivka, Shandrikholove, Yarova, Drobisheve, Kolozyazi, and Zarishne. So tentatively, it looks like the Russians are using Shandrikholove as the base, and they're pushing out in all directions. The Ukrainians, the main objective is to take Drobisheve, Yarova, and then go for Sviatohursk. However, I think Ukrainians are using Sviatohursk as well as the surrounding forest, which is a lot of place, able to continue to resist very, very effectively for now. So the front line here has not really moved much as well. The Russians have Liman, which allows them to hold up this salient here for a long time. The Russians' aim is to take out this salient with the push in two different directions in the pincer, but it's not working out. The push at the Novovodyanny is interesting. Tentatively, I don't expect too much. I think they are probably going to stop, but if they're going to decide to push more, yeah, then we shall see how to interpret the situation then. Otherwise, the rest of this front line is static. You see, all the fighting reports that was mentioned, and I did tell you it's going to be static. Yeah, it is static, So nothing is going to happen around here because it's strategically not important anymore to fight over there. We're going to move on further up north to the Borova front. Over at the Borova front, there is no reports of fighting. We move further up north to the Kupyansk front, and which some major news have happened. Ukrainian forces geolocated in the north of Kupyansk confirmed the Ukrainian successful counterattack into the north of Kupyansk. Clearly, the Russians have not set up any forward operating base within Kupyansk itself. They probably see it as a pretty dangerous place. I think maybe Huliaipole or Kalinove might be the forward operating base in this western bank of the river, and the Ukrainians are counterattacking it, and the Russians are just shelling Ukrainians that is trying to go into Kupyansk, which is kind of interesting because Putin has talked about Kupyansk so much, and then the situation right now is that the Ukrainians have retaken like half of Kupyansk. Findings reported at Petropavlivka, Batoli, Kupyansk, Verslovy, and Pischane. And I got a feeling that the eastern part of Kupyansk may actually be the real for operating base. And from this position, they are attacking all over the place. And but it is cut by the river. There is a river cutting here. So even if the Russians have a very strong position over on the east, it doesn't it has no relation to the situation on the western part of Kupyansk. So that's the current situation in this sector here. It's probably very confusing, right? You can see this is there's actually a river here, and there's a good the Russians was very proud about the capture of the eastern part of Kupyansk. We have no mapping to show that's the case. I believe the Russian stronghold is over here in the northern part of the eastern part, and from this position they are attacking towards Podoli, towards Kupyansk, Verslovy, and from Sinkivka, and they are attacking Petropavlivka. Sometimes we have reports at Kusherivka. This is probably coming from this area as well. But there is a river here, and this probably the Russians do not have any for operating base on the western part of Kupyansk because it is more dangerous, and the Ukrainians just counterattack into this weak spot where the Russians do not have sufficient defenses. So there's this how I interpret the situation over here. So hopefully this is useful to you. We move on to the Volhynia front, and of course, if it's useful to you, do share this. Word of mouth is the most important to to bring us to the greater audience. YouTube doesn't share DPA that much, so subscription is important because it's a numbers game. The algo pit DPA against military summary, against whip union, even though that we are all friends, and it unfortunately become competitors. As long as they post a video, DPA's video dies. So that's just how it works because their channels are 2 to 3 times bigger than DPA. So subscription is very important in order to level the playing field. So at Volhynia front, the fighting generally is over on the border side. There's fighting reported at Odradne as well as the mention of Vovchansk. I'm not sure if I actually got the correct Vovchansk, but that's the situation here. I think this is our static lines. I don't expect too much from this sector for now. Is there another Vovchansk here? I think Vovchansk very familiar, but I cannot remember where is the other one. So, and now we move on to the Kharkiv front. I'm running out of voice. I'm not sure, is it age or is it because I talk too much, do too much recordings? I'm not sure. People usually don't talk non-stop for 1 hour straight, like all the time. So no, in every single day. So maybe that's affecting my voice. I'm not sure. Over in the Vovchansk sector, that Staris Saltiv is mentioned. Our dear friend Staris Saltiv. We know this guy very, very well in 2022. That's the maximum extent of the Russians' advance in the Kharkiv front in this area. Anyway, over the Vovchansk sector, fighting is reported at Zaporizhia, Liman, Senenikove, Vilsha, and Vovchansk. Geolocation of Russian forces entering the Vilsha, confirming the Russians are indeed pushing in from the north, and they have allegedly taken most of Liman and the center of Vilsha. So that is the allegedly situation. The Russians have the northern part of, in fact, like a big chunk of Vovchansk at the forward operating base, as well as Zaporizhia, as well as Borovka. And from this position, the Russians are launching attacks. So this is where they launched the attack towards the east and towards Vilsha. And then from the forest, they can also from this position launch attack into Liman. This is why Senenikove is probably becoming a forward operating base as well as they continue to push south. And then soon they're going to go for Simonivka. From Burvaka, they can go towards Zaporizhia, I think, but tentatively a bit hard. I think Ukrainians have Ibiske as the forward bases, which is where they actually clashed with the Russians over at Zaporizhia. So far, that is the current situation over in this sector. So, but the Russians are moving. They are moving forward. They are capturing ground, clearly showing the limitation of the Ukrainian bases. Because on this side, the Ukrainian for operating base is very limited. It's actually rather far away. In my opinion, the forward base right now is over in Kolosias. The other one is probably over in I think Pisarivka region. Kharkiv, I think it's a bit dangerous. Probably is from here. Or Buhaivka, of course, Buhaivka is the main one. So yeah, I think it's Buhaivka. So I think all the forward operating bases is a little bit far, and which is why when they send reinforcement and operations to attack is a bit of a distance. From Buhaivka is like almost 10 kilometers. It's basically at the limits of how much a forward operating base can really command control over. So similarly, from Kolosias, it's more than 10 kilometers to reach Vilha. So so it's really far away. Probably why we are seeing the loss of grounds in this sector here, because previously Vilha is the forward operating base and it's getting destroyed. So and we can see from the geolocations previously, the Russians are bombarding it with missiles, with airstrikes, clearly trying to destroy the bases. So once that's gone, the Russians are going to be able to push forward further. So that's all from Kharkiv. And we go on to the last front line. And happy birthday to you if your birthday today. And then we're going to go into the Sumy front. Over the Sumy front, we have a chain of reports generally all along the same line. We have mention of Kindrativka, Oleksievka, Verskine, and Yudakivka. But this is a static line. Nothing much is going to happen around here. And both sides have very good support, good bases. So there's nothing much is going to happen. So that's it. So this is the summary for the day of 1384 for the 8th of December. So again, let me know what you think. Do you think this format of SITREP is even better than before? I think it is. It makes more sense to me. Hopefully it makes a lot of sense to you and help to propagate DPA. There's nothing more I can do. I have done whatever I could, and so it's up to you now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next update.